Well, good morning, and thanks for joining us from the Ohio AgNet, voice you know with the news you trust studio, sponsored by BASF, where you can count on the trusted performance of Alevo seed treatment to protect your soybean crop. I'm Joel Norwood in for Dale Minyo. Heading down to the Fayette County Airport for today's midday show, where the Southwest Ohio Corn Growers and Fayette Agronomy Field Day is taking place. Runs 9 to 2. Such speakers as Aaron Wilson and Scott Shearer of Ohio State and many more. We'll see you there. Thanks to the folks at LCNB National Bank. Learn more at lcnb.com. Then coming up Wednesday, we head to Pool Town. That's right. Join us at the Bowling Green Tractor Pulls, thanks to Nature's premium liquid fertilizers since 1946. And then, of course, don't forget to visit the Great Dark County Fair. That's August 15th through the 23rd in Greenville. You can find the full schedule of events at darkcountyfair.com. We'll be broadcasting from there on Friday. All the while, though, keeping an eye on the forecast, as are our Between the Rows farmers. And we check in for an update with our own Brianna Smith.
This Between the Rows update is brought to you by Seed Genetics Direct. Seed Genetics Direct, business with a handshake, not a 3-year contract. In Ohio, crop conditions are generally good, but farmers say a good rain would make all the difference as we head into mid-August. Let's check in with Dale Miller in Wayne and Holmes County.
They're not looking too bad, but you are starting to see a lot of the crops kind of roll and shrivel up, over the banks and stuff like that now, especially the last 2 or 3 days here when it's gotten a little bit warmer. Most of the hay that's ready to be made has been made. Most of the corn fungicide that's going to get sprayed, I'd say, is done.
Now let's check in with Jade Newton in Preble County in Southwest Ohio.
Fungicide still being applied. Probably a little more of that going on in the last few weeks of corn. Disease pressure really hasn't been that bad. The tar spot doesn't seem at this moment to be as aggressive as it was last year. The corn in general looks pretty clean. I know that there's still those issues with the tassel wrap. There has been a little bit of green snap in our area, but nothing major. It's just from when corn had been leaned over, some of that did snap off, but nothing like a entire field by any means.
For the full Between the Rows update, visit ohioagnet.com. Reporting for Ohio's Country Journal and Ohio AgNet, I'm Brianna Smith.
Thanks, Brianna. And as, of course, their discussions all entailed, how's the crop progressing around Ohio? Well, let's talk about that. This week's Ohio Crop Progress Report coverage sponsored by Unleaded 88. Save on fuel with the blue handle. Fill up with Unleaded 88. Discover more at ohiocornandwheat.org. USDA's National Ag Statistics Service released their crop progress numbers yesterday afternoon. Just a brief overview of the progress, right in line, if not surpassed, some of the 5-year average in certain cases. 62% of Ohio corn has entered the dough stage, notably ahead of the 50% 5-year average. 1% of corn is dented in the state. Usually we're at about 4%, but so early in that observation that I think we're going to progress pretty quickly into that area. 71% of soybeans setting pods, while 91% of oats are harvested. Both of those numbers right in line with the normal pace. Now, how goes crop condition? Well, on the corn side, 9% very poor to poor, 36% fair, 50% good, 30% excellent. That's ahead of the national number, which corn had 72% good to excellent. Soybean condition, 7% very poor to poor, 35% fair, and 58% good to excellent. Below the national, soybeans 68% good to excellent across the country. More online today at ohioagnet.com. Certain counties in Ohio starting to show a little bit too dry, needing some rain. What's the forecast hold? Let's check in with Ohio AgNet Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Thanks to Seed Consultants. Simply better performance online at seedconsultants.com. Ryan.
Another very warm and muggy day in Ohio today. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin. Let's take a look at that Ohio Ag weather update. No major changes as we're coming at you here this morning. Watching some moisture come together in Michigan, arcing back through Indiana. I think a little bit of that tries to sneak into Ohio as we approach the sunset tonight. And then through the overnight, if we're going to be seeing moisture, that's when it happens. I also think that we end up with about 30 to 40% coverage, and that is all from today through tomorrow. Maybe bumping that up a little bit late tomorrow afternoon and evening, but still, moisture totals are going to be generally under half an inch. As we finish out the week Thursday afternoon, going through Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we are partly to mostly sunny and dry, maybe not quite as warm, but not falling off super fast. Next week is a little more unsettled, especially as we get into that Monday afternoon, Tuesday, Wednesday, early Thursday time frame. Multiple chances for showers and thunderstorms, but not necessarily linked to any strong weather feature. nature. In my mind, that means right now the moisture chances look good, but they can easily dwindle and go away. So we'll have to pay attention to that very, very closely. Behind that, though, as we finish out next week, significantly cooler, less humid, and rather pleasant as we go into that last full week of August. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.
Thanks, Ryan, for that weather update. Again, more online at ohioagnet.com. Quick piece of news here, an interesting one. The National FFA organization, commonly referred to as the Future Farmers of America, but now just known as the National FFA, has announced its latest membership numbers. More than 1 million FFA members nationwide. That's right, the number is officially 1,042,245 donning the blue corduroy, with 9,407 chapters, and that's quite a growth. I mean, back when I was in FFA, back in 2008, 2012, it was right around that 500,000 mark, and we were pretty excited about that. Some other statistics there: 802,412 alumni members and 2,060 alumni chapters. States with the largest membership numbers include Texas at 181,939. California had 108,143. Congratulations to FFA on their membership growth. Always good to have them in our community. Well, on that note, let's take a break. We'll be right back with more farm news as the Ohio AgNet continues.
Over the years, you've brought them into your home. You were prescribed opioids after the C-section, when Dad injured his back, when your basketball star tore his ACL. Opioids helped with the pain, and you held on to them just in case. But did you know holding on to unused opioids puts your family at risk? Opioids are powerful pain-reducing prescription medicines, but most people who are prescribed opioids don't finish their prescriptions. So millions of unused opioids are sitting in homes across the country. And tragically, more than 100 Americans die every day from overdoses involving opioids. What can you do to protect your family? Remove the risk of unused opioids from your home. Pills, patches, or syrups in drawers, purses, and cabinets, anywhere they might be hiding. To find out how to dispose of them properly, visit www.fda.gov/drug disposal.
The Farmers' First Act of 2025 has recently been introduced by Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. She says the United States losing too many farmers to suicide. So the bill is all about getting farmers the help they need during stressful times.
This bill really doubles down on our efforts so that more folks in rural communities can help recognize the signs that someone's really struggling with their mental health and allows us to double down on getting them help.
She gives us a look at what is in the bill.
So it includes activities like training to help folks recognize the signs, the telltale signs of depression and mental health challenges, to create support groups among farming communities, crisis hotlines, all sorts of activities so that we can take on these high suicide rates that we're seeing among our farmers and bring them down.
Wisconsin Senator Tammy Baldwin talking about the Farmers' First Act of 2025. In other farm news, Ohio pork producer Pat Hord and National Pork Producers Council economist Holly Cook recently testified before the U.S. House Agriculture Committee. They're warning that California's Proposition 12 hurting farmers and raising food prices nationwide. Now, a reminder, Prop 12 bans the sale of pork in California that doesn't meet the state's strict production standards, but because California consumes 13% of U.S. pork while producing less than 1% of it itself, the law has major national impacts. Hort said even farms that comply face market volatility, costly mandates, and the threat of a patchwork of state regulations. Cook has cited USDA data showing pork prices in California rising more than 20% on average after Prop 12 took effect, with some cuts, like loins, up over 40%. Sales volume dropping along the way. Both warned that the law accelerates industry consolidation, hurting small farms, and does not improve animal welfare or food safety. They've urged Congress to back House Agriculture Committee Chairman Glenn G.T. Thompson's effort to address Prop 12 in the next Farm Bill. Elsewhere, John Deere will now have access to highly confidential business information from competitors, CNH Industrial, you might know them as Case IH, Kubota, and AGCO, following a federal court ruling in Illinois. The documents, which have been described by the companies as their crown jewels, include sensitive pricing data, financial reports, and sales information gathered by the Federal Trade Commission in its investigation into Deere's alleged monopoly over farm equipment repair. The court said Deere needs equal access to the evidence in order to defend itself in ongoing right to repair and antitrust lawsuits. Farmer plaintiffs in a separate case will also gain access to the information. Strict confidentiality rules will govern how the data is handled, we're told. The FTC and several state attorneys general accused Deere of illegally restricting repairs on its equipment, blocking farmers and independent shops from using the company's diagnostic tools. Deere denies wrongdoing and says it will fight the allegations vigorously. And one more piece of news to touch on. After several delays, the world's first sustainable aviation fuel factory will start operating before the end of this year, we're told. The $200 million facility owned by LanzaJet Incorporated is located in rural Georgia and was scheduled to begin commercial production back in 2024. Now it's expected to begin production by the end of September. The latest delay was the result of equipment issues, and LanzaJet being closely watched as a potential barometer for success in the ethanol-to-jet fuel industry, something that commodity groups have been very eagerly watching. The company has imported Brazilian sugarcane ethanol in 2024 to pilot production, but more than a year later it has yet to sell its jet fuel into the open market. Does somebody say markets? Well, let's turn the page and talk about how market prices are shaping up this week and what's driving those. Of course, a big report day ahead of us with crop production estimates and World Agricultural Supply and Demand Estimates report, those coming out at noon Eastern Time. One of the first good looks from USDA's perspective of corn and soybean production numbers across the country. That'll come out in due time, but first, market analysis brought to you by the Louis Dreyfus Company. Excited to be building the newest state-of-the-art soybean crush facility in Upper Sandusky. Call 574-566-2113 for information on soybean marketing to LDC. Ryan.
Grain markets finished sharply higher on Monday, led by soybeans. The soybeans closed anywhere from 18.5 to 24 cents higher. Why? Well, President Trump issued a Sunday night tweet, and everybody was trying to figure out what that Trump post means for the future of a U.S.-China trade deal. President Trump told reporters yesterday morning, well, we'll see what happens, when asked if he would give China another tariff extension to work out a trade deal. Keep in mind the current pause on the tariffs with China ends today. Apparently, the U.S. and Chinese trade delegations agreed to extend the deadline back in talks in Stockholm, Sweden several weeks ago, but President Trump has to approve that deal, and so far we haven't heard that that has happened. No sales of corn, beans, wheat, or soy products under the daily reporting system yesterday. However, export inspections for the week ending August 7th were pretty decent. 58.7 million bushels of corn, 19 million bushels of beans, 13.5 million bushels of wheat. For the respective crop years, corn exports are ahead of last year's pace, and beans are close to where they need to be, 1.777 million bushels. China imported 22.5 million metric tons of beans in the 24-25 crop year. For China to quadruple the U.S. annual soybean imports would require 3.3 billion bushels, or 90 million metric tons. That would leave soy crushers here in the U.S. to be about 1 billion bushels short of beans. So that's why everybody's trying to figure out what President Trump meant and what it means to any kind of trade deal, what it means to the soybean market. This is a big story. Again, was worth a lot on the soybean market yesterday. We'll see what kind of long tail this has going forward. I'm Ryan Martin.
And thanks, Ryan. Stay tuned. We'll be right back with overnight market numbers when the Ohio AgNet continues.
Attention construction pros. Purple Wave Auction brings quality equipment to your fingertips. Join our bi-weekly online auctions featuring dozers, excavators, loaders, and more. We provide detailed listings, photos, and seller contact info. Inspect online or in person. With our no reserve policy, every item sells to the highest bidder. Visit purplewave.com today and see why informed builders choose Purple Wave. Transparent processes, real deals, your next great purchase awaits. purplewave.com.
Overnight in Chicago, we're seeing red across the grain complex and green on the livestock side. September corn down 3 3/4 to 3.81 1/4. December new crop corn down 4 cents to 4.03 3/4. New crop soybeans priced at 9.98 3/4, down 12.5 cents from yesterday's close. March 26 contracts 11 3/4 down to 10.32 1/4. September wheat, 5.11.5, priced 3.5 lower at the moment. Markets brought to you by Seed Consultants, simply better performance. Online at seedconsultants.com. Livestock seeming to calm down a little bit after last week's major volatility. August live cattle 53 cents up to 233.08. August lean hogs 109.68. That's a 78-cent gain. October hogs up by $1.10. More farm news online at ohioagnet.com. We'll see you out and about as we broadcast all over the state this week. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Joel Norwood. This is the Ohio AgNet.